All right, welcome to the next installment of the Dismount podcast. And today we are discussing relationships, the feels of an old wooden roller coaster. Sometimes it does feel like that. Sometimes it does feel like an old wooden roller coaster. Adventurous and fun, scary and freaking you the whole hell out. Old wooden roller coaster.
Am I going to die?
Yeah, am I going to die? That's a bold statement, but yes.
How many people have rode this thing?
How many people have rode this thing?
It's all coming back to me now.
Listen to seatbelts, not for people with back problems.
So, today we are going to discuss relationships, and we're going to try...
I stand up, is it going to take my head off? I'm sorry.
You're fine, dude. Outline. We are talking living your truth, mirroring and projecting. Whoa. Help, impact, significant others versus friends, relationships as you age, and Joharis window. I hope I said that last one right. I got the nod from Titty. We're good to go.
Not to be confused with Jatari. We're not talking Avengers.
Oh.
Who's Jatari in the Avengers?
Jatari is the army of Thanos.
The who?
Thanos' army.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that. So, living your truth. This is by far 100% to me the most important thing to try to get a grasp on in your life. And with me saying that, I am telling the audience I do not have that 100% grasp by any means right now. So, but I feel like it's so important because I'm now starting to see the ways or feel the emotions that you get whenever you know you're just not living your truth. Like what you're doing on a day-to-day basis just does not feel right. And you're like, okay, yeah, I had a very relaxing day. So yes, this was good, but like I didn't get accomplished anything of what I said I was going to get accomplished because I went into super Zen mode and was just like, yeah, everything's cool. Everything's awesome. Like it's a Legos movie.
Everything is awesome.
And I know for a fact that is not living my truth. And it's funny because at some point in these notes, I throw out my truth is actually somewhere between like an ever-loving hippie and an absolute David Goggins nut.
I saw that today, and I wrote down, I said, if I went to a shelter to adopt a dog, they told me that was a mix of a dog, I would never adopt that. That sounds like the worst dog.
What even would that dog look like?
Oh, man, that's a good question.
I feel like it's a mix between like a Jack Russell Terrier and like some type of working dog or like a bird dog.
Yeah.
So like a little bit bigger of a Jack Russell Terrier because Jack Russell Terriers are nuts.
Yeah.
You just need like a medium-sized Jack Russell Terrier, not a small-sized Jack Russell Terrier.
A Jack Russell Terrier just go, who's going to bark at the mailman?
Whose turn is it today?
It's like a Newfoundland and a Jack Russell Terrier, one of the ones that save people from water.
Yeah.
One of those guys with Jack Russell Terrier.
Yeah, somewhere
exactly.
in between, yeah.
So, Tit, living your truth for yourself, like, where do you go at now at 32 years old, like, trying to grasp, like, what is living your truth?
Speaking of truth, I'm 31. No.
Oh, shit, my bad, Tit. Pardon my French.
I just thought it'd be funny.
It was.
I would say that I have a very hard time living my truth. I think that's awesome that you put in the Lego prompt because the second movie is about everything's not awesome, but that's totally cool. So by the second movie, they're living their truth. In my notes, I have some of you guys already seen. I feel like I'm one of those people. It hurts me more to like cause someone shame or embarrassment or pain. So I often will take on that and I'll take it myself because I feel more capable of embracing pain or shame or any of those things than it is to inflict it on somebody else. So I'll often be that glutton, for pain, punishment. And it's not always great. Sometimes you feel like you're walking on eggshells. And that tends to be me a lot of times. I don't want anybody to feel pain or anything like that. And often as a manager, It's my job to tell people no a lot, like a lot of times, over and over. Yesterday was an exception. I had some lady, she was just about on the verge of crying, and I'm like, okay, I know this lady, she had her plans completely changed. I'm just going to let her go. But for me, living my truth, I feel like I try to get closer and closer, but I don't really get there. And aside from Joharis' window, I had my own window of congruence. I know you guys probably know what it is for any audience members. Congruence is pretty much living your truth. You're feeling like the inside matches the outside. And I always imagine my goal of your inside self and your outside self are separated by a piece of glass. And it's my goal to try to get that glass to be thinner and thinner to almost non-existent. We might have talked about something on a previous episode where it's like your brain, when you're becoming a fully like integrated person, I think it's the corpus callosum that joins the two sides of the brain, the two hemispheres. I think you might have mentioned that it's like the ultimate goal to get them to both be completely integrated. So my truth is way far off. I'm definitely the person, my lies are good lies in a way. If somebody's like, hey, how you doing today? Good, how are you? Like, mine are like, you don't want to hear my shit. Like,
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to hear if I'm actually having a bad day. No one really wants to hear that. They're just like, hey, let's just take up this time where it's awkward, where we're passing for 10 seconds, and let me just acknowledge you, smile, and say hello and goodbye.
Oh, I know that all too well because I'm someone who can share way too quickly and way too openly with just about anybody. So your statement right there of just someone asking me how my day is, and then all of a sudden I'm just like 4-minute ramble, and you can just see their face just like losing interest. Okay, now I'm staring at a phone. All right, how do I stop talking? How do I stop talking to get out of this?
Yeah. I find myself on the other side of that. Like, shout out to people who work in service, who like cash registers and stuff. But you ever ask someone like that how their day is going, and then they tell you?
I still have people hostage as a cashier.
I'm like, oh yeah, how's your day going? And then someone will drop some shit on me, and I'm just like, all right, so see you later. I don't know what to say now. Makes it tough, man, because you want to make yourself emotionally available for the cashier just as much as I'm sure they have no interest in making themselves emotionally available to me. But like, it's coming from the right place, and you might just do it out of like, exchanging pleasantries, but what exactly are you actually offering that person? Like, I do that in my job. Like, the number one thing in making a sales call is to, when you start, it shouldn't be, oh, hey, it's Zach. Hey, Zach, it's Derek with blah, blah, blah. How you doing today? That is the last question you should ask. And I'm bad about it because it's like, oh, I want to seem casual. I want to seem fun. They don't care to tell you how their day is. They see through it. And the most likely scenario is that they're going to tell you their day is horrible and you're off on the bad foot already anyway. It makes it tough from like I fall in the people pleasing standpoint sometimes too, of like, I just want to be there for other people. I just want to show up. And like, as I get older, I realize like, I'm better off for both of us not even worrying about it, because it just doesn't, for me, it doesn't seem genuine.
Hey Stan, how you doing today? Oh, my wife just left me.
So you want to go to lunch?
Yeah, like, what do you do?
Did you watch the football game?
Did you catch the Steelers last night?
Yeah, crazy, right? Yeah.
No, I could have even. That would be, yeah. How do you come back from that conversation?
You don't.
You don't.
No.
It is done. All right, well, I'll try you next week.
Yeah, right. So, like, from the people-pleasing standpoint, I see that, too, and I think from living my truth, like, yes, I do care about other people, and, like, I do try to be genuine in that standpoint, but, like, as far as, like, what I've been finding myself doing recently is, like more on a broader scope is trying to become an actor in my life and not so much who I am emotionally. Like, there's a lot of things that I see that is the true version of myself, but it is taking a lot of discipline to get there, and that's tough. So, like, I'm trying to force the idea of just acting like the person I want to be into me nowadays. Like, when I don't feel like doing it, cool, what would the version of myself that I want to be do in this situation?
Jeez Louise, dude. I feel you way too much on that, because nowadays it's like you sit there and you feel, for me, I feel so disconnected from like a lot of reality around me. Just in general of like, I have this feeling towards like what I would love to see our planet that we live on act like, but then what I'm now basically trying to impede on people's free will to what they get to experience here. And that would be like, oh, so arguably you're taking out Hitler, but are you impeding on Hitler being able to like do what he was supposed to do? I know that sounds so crazy to make that kind of statement, but like, yeah, butterfly effect, exactly where I was going with that. And so you start to like feel so disconnected from your world because you sit there and you look around and you go, shit, honestly, like the only way we're going to get to a place where everybody is chill with everybody is if some people can forgive people for some really probably terrible, heinous things inside of their head. And so you're like, all right, well, my truth might not ever come to fruition because like, how do you impede on what would be the existence of life or the growth of the souls that are here or the people who are experiencing what the human experience is? And so then you start to like reel it in. You're like, all right, so my truth is just, I need to continue being the best version of myself for myself. And then if I'm the best version for myself, I'm ultimately going to put the best version out there into the world. So I'm either going to sync up with a world that I'm now basically vibrating on, or I'm going to be that potential change, not just sit here and go, well, the world is what the world is, so I guess I'll just join the masses, you know?
Yeah, I wrote that down too. Is the most important thing of relationships and how I can be there for more people would just be to focus on the relationship I have with myself. Again, I mean, that's 101 life. If you can't be there for yourself, like how are you expected to be there for other people? The answer is you can't. There's no way of doing it. So, but if I'm focused on everything that I want to be, I'm happy, I'm a person people want to be around with, they see the benefit in me putting myself first. Not in like a selfish manner, like oh I'm gonna order a pizza for everyone and eat it all or something. That's just not the case. But
Right.
it's something Brandon would do.
Only if it's Frank's.
Yeah, dude. Oh, we got Frank's the other day. It was really
I got
good.
Frank's 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was so good. But on the other side of it too, it's tough because you want to show up. Like I've been so guilty of that my entire life of like putting people first, but by doing that, I'm actually hindering those relationships with those people because I'm not putting myself, and then there's like maybe resentment of what I should have been doing or could have been doing, or any of those aspects of just yourself in general. And that's what makes it tough for me is like moving forward. I want to make sure that if I am prioritizing people, and I think another thing I wrote down is less people, not that I don't like people. I'm a people person, but with actual relationships, like showing up for people to get the most out of the relationships I have with the people I care about most, I have to lessen the circle I'm in, I think.
That's so hard to do.
Yeah, and I think it's like one of those things where it's not intentional. Like I'm not kicking people out of my life right now. I think I like where I am, but it's like, I don't need to be, I don't have anyone in mind, but like someone from college hit me up like, oh dude, like let's go out for drinks like this weekend. Like I haven't taken my mom out to dinner in like 6 months. I should probably like do other things, and like things that actually, not like that person may not mean something to me or didn't at some point, but just for me progressing, like I shouldn't feel guilty about that. And I don't. And I think that's, again, just prioritizing those relationships, showing up for the right people and closing an inner circle that like, not only am I showing up for those people I care about most, but in turn, those are the relationships that's going to provide the most to me.
Yeah. In the process of doing that, man, like it's very difficult. It's challenging because to be able to start to put up boundaries with some people means that you have to hold those same other people that you're now keeping close to you accountable to those same standards that you're setting forth.
Whole another level.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not the case a lot of the time.
Right. A lot of the case, it's just I'm spreading myself too thin. And it's not that like, it's not that I can't have all these people in my life, or that it's not that I like, oh, you don't do X, Y, and Z, so we're just not going to be friends anymore. It's not like that either. It's more of a, hey man, I don't even know who myself is right now. So for me to be like, if I'm feeling confused with myself and I'm feeling confused with basically everything going on, then what am I actually bringing to you? So like me taking some time or me putting a little bit of distance between us is probably a benefit. If you don't see it, shit. I don't know how to put that out there, that I'm not actually showing up to this right now, my full ass, and that bums me out. And that's such a hard fence to fully step over, man. That's such a hard line to fully step over, because it's all for you. And you have to finally be selfish, which is a very challenging thing to do.
But I think with the right people and the right relationships, then it's understood, which is important. Like last week, we were supposed to record this episode and we didn't. And I think like you had mentioned first, or one of us did, and Brandon didn't say much like until after, but you were on the same page. So was I, which is great. But like, even if you weren't, I still feel like we had this place built up with just knowing each other for years, that wouldn't have been an issue. Now, if it was a different situation and we weren't as open with each other and we hadn't grown to know each other and care about each other as much as we have, like that could have been like oh man, like, oh, there goes Derek again with other priorities getting in the way. And that's just not the case. But like when you can prioritize those relationships and make yourself more open and vulnerable to them, then there's more of a clear understanding of like, oh, hey, like that person might just need some time, or I hope there's something going on. Like if everything was okay, they'd be here. Yeah. So it's cool to see, like, even with us, like last week, like, yeah, thankfully we were all on the same page, but even if we weren't, I feel like with the relationship we have, like that's still okay.
Oh, without a doubt. You've built to this level. Like we've built for how long to get to this point. Like a relationship with someone who, like, I feel like it's hard and challenging because you'll have those relationships that, like, no matter what, anytime you come back to each other, it's like you never walked away from the situation.
Yeah.
And so those relationships were one thing or one person out of that relationship saying, hey, I need to take a step back for a little while and find myself. If that is what absolutely terminates that relationship, then it probably wasn't meant for you. And that was probably the universe giving you the exit that you might have not been strong enough to be able to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Honestly. Wow. I like that.
I mean, that was me like, 3 weeks ago, or I was like, hey guys, I'm getting like hit from every side. I was like, I just need to like pump the brakes for a second. And we're all like, yeah, like understood. Like you're dealing with some messed up shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This podcast was never something for us to do that was going to be like, this has to feel like a job. Because if this feels like a job, then we lost the entire essence of what this podcast was to begin with. So this podcast was about having that compassion and understanding for each other and starting to, I mean, we're not the first guys on the block who are doing this type of shit. You know, we're not.
We talked about that, I think, first episode.
Yeah. Here we go again. Couple white dudes talking about shit.
White dudes with problems, who knew?
And we're definitely not the first guys to like start to try to build those communities of like-minded men who are just trying to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
We're definitely not the first people out there. But if that doesn't stay what is the essence of this, then we lost it all. Like if it's screw Titty because Titty can't go this week, we're going to fire this up. We're going to do this ourselves. Like that's not even remotely close to how this would work. And that would lead me into actually going into like the help of what in a relationship can be helpful to you yourself and to just with others. You know, Tit, what have you experienced in regards to that?
I mean, you could even like reference us probably, I want to say May. You know, I had some poor planning and I wasn't ready to have everything moved. And I was like, hey guys, think you can help me? Like, like I think we're all the same vicinity. But you guys just like jumped up to the occasion. We're like, yeah, we'll help rapid fire, just like knock this out real quick. There's countless times. I mean, I'll try not to jump ahead to the emotional bank account too much, but I try to go and help anybody anytime I can. Whenever they ask, as long as I am not already committed, I'll be like, yeah. And sometimes if I am committed, I'll drop what I have and help out people. And it's really repaid a lot back. I mean, just last week, Derek gave me Stevie Wonder tickets. I was just like super stoked. It was amazing. There's been other times with different people. I might help connect them with resources. I won't say what because of my job, but connecting people with
Parking
resources.
spots.
Thank you.
Well, I mean that. Like, you've hooked me up with so many parking spots.
But yeah, I mean, it seems like what goes around comes around very often, and sometimes you're really stuck. You're in a bad way. I mean, Derek repaid. He gave me Stevie Wonder tickets. I gave him a ride down here. It's nothing that really affected me. It didn't affect me at all. I literally drove like 5 minutes up the road, grabbed them, and then here we are. Like, these things, help comes in so many forms, and it's crazy. And I put in our notes, it just comes in the form of elbow grease sometimes. Sometimes, maybe someone doesn't know how to do their taxes. You're like, hey, there's this great thing called TurboTax. You ever try it out? It's like, yeah, I guess this thing does like all the heavy lifting for you. You just plug numbers into a computer, and then boom, you're done. But there's always been help for me in different places, and I try to help where I can back. And a great example of this, coworker of mine, all of a sudden in the middle of summer, just dropped on the ground. I come over to help somebody, and he just passed out. So I called 911. I even sat with him till like 8 or 9 o'clock at AGH. And he's like, man, this is unfounded. Like, I don't understand. You didn't have to do all this. And I'm like, hey, I've been in the hospital before. I have family. Your family is like very far away right now. Like, there's no one to help you in this particular moment. But it sucks to be at the hospital by yourself, without your cell phone, without any like resources, nothing. But to make sure I plug in a previous point, the word that we were thinking of earlier is cognitive dissonance, when your values don't match your behaviors. So if you're not living your truth, what your experience is cognitive dissonance. Now that I plugged that in, let's return to help.
Oh, that's going to be the name of my biography.
Wow, that would be a killer.
That's a horrible biography. No one reads that. But I think, not to go into I guess not emotional bank account, but when what you're saying is like the relationships you have aren't necessarily transactional, but like for me, like I don't have a car right now. I got put into the wall pretty nicely last Saturday by a car that wasn't paying much attention. So my car is totaled, I think. Yeah. So, but a couple things thinking.
Don't drive.
Yeah. A couple of things thinking about that though is like again, like Brandon picked me up today. I had someone pick me up for work on this morning and on Thursday, drive me home on Thursday, drive me home today. My girlfriend specifically, like over the week, like there's no like, oh, what a burden Derek has become because now he doesn't have a car. So it's not so much of like, while I'm like, okay, well, I'm keeping tabs. Hey, Frank, at work, remember those 3 times I did those 3 things? Do you think in exchange for that, you could give me a ride home today? Like, what fucking douchebag is doing that?
Oh, I already got you documented for today.
Yeah, I got you here. Google Docs says right here on 9/22, I bought you 2 slices of pizza Milano, when you didn't have enough money. So that equals 6 rides home. I'll take that Tuesday, Thursday, and then I'll hit you for next week as well. Like, my God, dude, no way. But what was great was like, there's no even asking for people that you show up for. Like my girlfriend, like I can use her car. It's not even a ask. It's a assumed like, yes, you would do the same for me. Great. And the same thing at work. Like I would do the same thing for those people if they needed a ride. I'm not asking anybody to drive across the city to pick me up. They're all people who live in my neighborhood. But it's understood that because I have a good relationship with them, I'd be willing to do the same exact thing for them as they would. And it's not like transactional. It's not expected to be. And it's just like, one of us buys pizza the next time someone's buying pizza. You know what I mean? Like,
I actually only drove you today because you drove me to take the SAT. So I was just
I've been waiting to catch that in for fucking 15 years.
Done.
Damn. Yeah, but I think
Shit.
that's what I take is like I've always loved that about like our friend group, like of like it's never seemingly transactional. It's just it's understood that it would go both ways.
I'm gonna laugh about that a little bit later.
I had no one on the SAT thing.
Funny.
going.
That's
Man,
100% true.
They thought I was cheating on the SATs. Actually, that was fun. I took the SATs. So it was actually the ACTs for the first time. My dad thought I should take both because maybe I'm smarter doing one than the other. Answers I'm not. I got into the same schools no matter what.
Like the same test.
Yeah, but I forgot what I did. I was like taking the test, and dude, I really don't. I thought I was like, this shit is hard, dude. I'm like,
I think I remember.
I was like looking around. I was like, is anyone else done? And I go to the first bathroom break. I come back. Lady goes, I just want you to know, if I catch you again, I'm going to ask you to leave. And I said, catch me doing what? She's like, looking at other students. Like, you're wasting your time. It's a different test. And I go, ma'am, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was just looking to make sure I was in the same boat as everybody else. Oh, man. Yeah, that didn't do much for me, though. Neither test was really good at them. Not bad. Not good.
Nah, help from relationships is super impactful, like both ways for sure. And I know that it definitely, like the comment that I was going to make from your statements, Tit, was being alone in a hospital would suck by yourself. Like being there for someone like that, like, wow, the dedication that it takes to just put yourself out there. Like, oh, well, I might be at the hospital for the next 4 hours, but this person deserves to feel that type of comfort. It's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah, you almost wonder, too, like, not to discount how much it must suck to be in a hospital bed in that situation, but like that's also really hard for the person visiting you too. So like there's an acceptance of like I'm understanding that this is like hospitals have like a weird for me like weird vibe in it, like oh man, like this is like it's not where anyone wants to be. So to put that aside and be there, especially someone who might not be conscious at the time or like need a lot of rest or whatever, and you're just there, it shows a lot about a person for sure.
Yeah, seriously. That would literally lead me into the mirroring and projecting and how much that would be something of like, wow, dude, the mirror that you're putting out into the world is pretty fantastic, because this was something that once I realized that most of like the jokes that I was throwing out there or like the goofy statements or whatever of like the little jabs you try to throw at somebody whenever you're like, ooh, Timmy's a little vulnerable right now. Here, I'm going to throw a zinger in there. Oh, I got everyone laughing off of that Timmy zinger. And you don't realize this.
Got Timmy.
Got Timmy. And you don't realize that it's literally you're making jokes that like that would really hurt you if they were thrown at you. Like you're literally projecting your bullshit out onto other people. And when you realize that, like when I came down to that realization, I honestly went stoic, man. Like I don't really want to say anything because hold up. Does anybody else in the room know that whatever I say is actually what I'm really in my head about? Oh shit. Now I'm not going to talk at all because of that. And I experienced that for a while. I was just like, Anastasia would get mad. She's like, why don't you talk as much anymore? And I'd be like, I don't want to say anything.
Simple.
I mean, look at my track record.
My track record. I've said all
time I
kind of
open my
crazy
mouth.
stuff. It's wild. So yeah, I'm mirroring and that like the projecting. I know that I don't know any scientific terms behind it, but when I learned about it, Tit, man, that floored me and absolutely put me into a place of like a lot of self-awareness of what the hell am I saying out there? What am I projecting out into this world? And then reeling yourself in and going, okay, now I need to really be cautious of the things that I say or the projection that I'm putting out into the world. That was challenging.
I caught myself last week almost doing it back, and I noticed what was happening. I had one coworker, he said something that it struck a nerve, and I was ready to jump back at him. And we were talking about dishes and just talking about how we do dishes, and the way he does dishes is different than me. I like to get just about everything off the plate before I put in the dishwasher. And I just still feel spoiled. I have a dishwasher in general, but I like pretty much clean them off. And he's like, wait, you don't use like a tub in the dish, in like the dish itself in the sink? You don't do that? He's like, grow the fuck up. And I was about to go, you first. And and I stopped, and I was like, don't do that. You know what he's doing. I'm like, yeah, I do know what he's doing. He's trying to feel a little bit bigger by trying to step on me. And I'm like, so you already know that he feels small. So don't say anything. I just smiled. And I was just like, you think that you're going to put me down? No, I already know you. I know you backwards and forwards. You think that you have me read, but you forget I have all kinds of selves inside here, and you only get pieces of that. Right now, what you've showed me is you're very insecure about yourself, and you feel the need to try to step on me. That just tells me that you really don't have a full sense of self. So I'm sitting over here, and I'm like, I know I'm not complete, but I'm not trying to bury somebody by putting them down. Like, if you feel that small, and you feel like it makes you feel a little bit bigger to try to criticize the way I do dishes, that's fucking crazy.
Dude,
Well,
I experienced that today. I had a conversation with someone at work who were talking about a position for me to take, and he wanted me to write an email basically talking about what type of not control, but like what type of things would I be allowed to do, like so fire people, this or that kind of thing. I basically said, we can hash this all out right now. This guy who works here would not last 6 months with me. I would have let him go a long time ago. And and I didn't say anything about like the guy, didn't attack the guy. Just, I have made comments that like the dude's work ethic is just not fully there. What am I saying? I'm not attacking the dude. Like, I'm a part of a team. Like, this is the same shit I dealt with when I was in high school. Like, I was upset with my friends who didn't want to work hard to become the best lacrosse players, but I never once stopped and said, do you guys even want to become good lacrosse players, or are you just doing this because you think it'll get you chicks? Like, what is the statement here? So today, I made a comment, and I basically told him, you know, within the last year, the 75% of the people that you've hired are now saying, I don't know why I work so hard around here because that guy still is employed here. I said, so these are people who have literally only been here for a year, 6 months to a year, and have already lost their give a damn because of one bad apple in the bunch. Because the bad apple, I mean, this guy would not have lasted anywhere else. Any other place I would have been at, all the things that he'd have done, he'd have been gone. And he says something to me along the lines of, I've never said anything about you, Zachary. And I, you know, you don't have a perfect track record around here. There have been people who have said, you know, you're an asshole. And I was just like, it really kind of floored me today, dude. I was like, damn. I'm sitting there and I was like, oh, really? People have said that. And I was just absolutely floored for a second and had to sit back, and same comment that you had. I really, really wanted to fucking dig into that one,
like,
dude.
who?
I really wanted to find out. I wanted to go off on that one and have a nice back and forth, like, all right, motherfucker, let's get it. Let's go. And I sat there and went, no, I know exactly what's happening here.
It's trying to get you.
Reel it in. And so I did. And I walked away from the conversation and felt a lot better about it. But yeah, dude, I was fired up and wanted to find out. And I know who obviously said it. It's the guy who I'm talking about who doesn't need to work there anymore. But like, what the fudge? It really grinded my gears today, man.
It makes you think too, is like, that guy's opinion doesn't matter.
Right. I have what is that going to do for me? It's not going to do anything. And especially if you'd have told me who it was, I would have been like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is the jab you got for me? Try again, Mike.
Christ, dude. All right, so
Hot damn.
so let's talk mirroring. No, I'm kidding. No, I do agree here. In the sense that I think now more than ever, I feel in a way that like energy, I 100% agree with the fact that there is no hiding from it. Like my girlfriend, I wrote this down. I said, the way I act directly affects how people feel about me, regardless if they are aware of my actions or not. Fuck, dude. I don't even know what that means, but I wrote it today.
Can we say that again?
Yeah, sure. The way I act directly affects how people feel about me, regardless if they are aware of my actions or not.
Interesting.
Holy hell, dude.
I'm fucked up. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. That is like
Silverstein.
yeah. Oh shit. What did he write? The garbage like poem or whatever?
Nah, wasn't he the apple tree one?
I don't know. I thought he wrote
I
one
have
about
no
a
idea.
garbage, some lady in a dump or something.
Sorry, Shell.
Yeah. Okay. So Shelby just ruined your entire beautiful poetry career. So, but I mean that in the sense of like, if I'm doing things that aren't my true self, like my girlfriend, for instance, like it's not about the actions, it's about the way the actions make me feel, and then the way I carry myself out there, and the way that she can pick up instantly, like, are you okay? What's bothering you? What are you thinking about? And like, even just that, like, yeah, you told me not to do this like one thing, and like I did it, and you don't know, but like now I'm like sitting over the corner, like, fuck, she gonna find out, like, like just little things like that. I'm not thinking of anything specifically, totally not at all. But for instance, if she tells me I eat too much after 11 o'clock, which I do at night, I'll just go down and start eating, and then like I go and have a snack, and then like I'm sitting in the corner, and then she comes down, and I'm like, just like trying to. And then I'm like, I'm kind of weird about it, like sitting over on the couch. She's looking at me. She's like, well, what is wrong with you? Like, that's a very small example, but the way I see it, like at work, with other people I interact with my girlfriend, with friends in general, like once you open yourself up enough to those people, and then like you try to hide from who you actually are, it's damn near impossible. It's almost more convenient for you to just be honest with yourself than it is to try to hide from the shit you're trying to hide from.
Wow, that's a really cool. I never once sat here and thought about that when we were thinking about this episode.
Yeah, I took
Or
it.
put it. That is a really cool way to look at it.
Yeah, like I just feel like with someone I'm so connected, like I was just thinking my girlfriend, like energy wise, I used to like, I don't know, there's a person I used to work with at my current job, and when they were there, they would sit next to me, and dude, you could feel it radiating off you, like, or off of them onto you, like when you sat in close proximity, that they were just like depressed as all hell, did not want to be there, hated the job, hated like their situation in life. And best wishes, I think they're better off now. They don't work there anymore. I think they took a different job, moved, and a better setup for them. But that was like one of the first times I really could feel like energy radiating off of someone that I sat next to 40 hours a week. Like, oh my God, it is different when they aren't here, and like different things like that too. Like they would be better off going and chasing themselves, and it actually affects the people around them too. And once I realized that was something I started taking with me too, of like, there is a lot to be said about not saying anything at all. Almost is more impactful than speaking, because you're like me, you're probably just spewing a bunch of bullshit that doesn't correlate with your actions either. That was one of the tough glasses of water I think I needed to drink and still trying to finish, is that I talk a lot about these actions, but it's just all talk. It's never actually doing them. And that's where it's like, okay, so what are the truths? Are the truths what I'm actually doing, or are the truths who I want to be? Because right now the truths are my actions. It's not my thoughts. It's my fucking actions. My actions are who I'm going to become. It's not who I think I want to be or who would be really convenient for me to be right now. It's my track record, as much as I don't want to live in the past. And that is scary as fuck, because you can have an idea of like who you're working towards, but all you have to stand on at that present moment is just kind of the track record you had built up until then. And until you make a change, there's nothing to be had.
How many guys in the warehouse do you think I asked if they thought I was an asshole today?
Hey, Bill, come here. Bill, quick question. Nothing to do with work. You're doing a great job. Bill, am I an asshole? Why are you asking me?
Yeah,
that?
I was gonna say, why are you asking?
In what context? And the best part is the people who would call you an asshole will never say that, and the people who would never call you an asshole will immediately call you an asshole.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, of course you're a fucking asshole.
Dude, honestly, that self-realization that you had was absolutely crazy. That was really awesome.
Yeah, I mean that too. Like, it's just, it's because that's who you actually are. Like, I could see what the potential for me is, but it isn't who I am until that's who I am. That's where regret comes in.
Yeah.
You know, people go, you're going to regret anything, you know, as you get older? What regrets do you have? And, you know, you're 28, 29, 30 or something. Well, I don't fucking regret anything, dude. I'm cool. You know, and then, you know, 32, 33, 34, 35, and then you're like, like, it's, you know, it's passing by. You know, I'm watching football. These guys aren't getting any older, and I'm getting older every year. I'm like, oh, man, goes from that could have been me to, okay, well, like, now what are you doing? Because that time passed. Not to say I want to play football, but just like that unrealized potential is so scary.
Mhm.
Wow. That would be a miserable day having that full, like, now, I think I know exactly where you're going with that. Or I guess I should say I can feel that whole, you know, scenario just deeply about it. I would say that knowing what it is or being able to feel what your truth should be or what you think your truth is, and then constantly watching yourself just not strive to that level or even be putting the effort towards that. That to me, like the feeling of throwing in the towel and just saying, nah, fuck it. Never even going to worry about trying to get to that. Or having that come back at you year after year after year. And that's something that I was experiencing for like a short period of time of just, all right, I'm trying to stream. All right, 2 people. All right, 2 years, 2 people. You're just like, and I know I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And that was something that I enjoyed. Yeah, that's hilarious.
I'm cracking up because I'm just picturing John McClane. Oh, come out for a Christmas party. You know, it'll be all fun. Oh, this will be a great time. Like, I was like, who do you sound like right now? I'm like, Bruce Willis. Oh, boom, that's it.
Yeah, I think the true winners are the ones who just keep going. Like, I don't know, like, people have listened to our podcast, and thank you for listening to our podcast. If you've ever listened to it, please, like, even if you never listen to it again, this is the only words you ever hear from our podcast. Thank you. But I think the true OGs are the ones who just keep going, and that's what we're doing. Like, not to sit and discount you on anything from the streaming thing. I think you were doing that when we weren't focusing as much as we were here on this, but it's just something that I am trying to make sure that I hold myself accountable to, and something that I'm passionate about. And like you said, this is a place of love doing this. This isn't like it's a job. This is going to be a job. So, you know, situations where maybe you haven't got a taste of it, like if some people, if and just like even with us, like some success, if we had one of these clips go viral tomorrow, like if you call me and Titty tomorrow, you go, dude, we just had a video hit 500,000 views on TikTok. Like, we'd be all over here the next day, like, all right, what the fuck? How do we capitalize? And the issue is we're probably back down to 300 views the next day, and we keep moving. But that taste would be like, sometimes you need that boost, man. But you know, that might not get you anywhere. And like, I think the real OGs are the ones who just show up and do it every day, regardless. And that's not an issue if it doesn't ever come. That wasn't the point.
Yeah, when I was doing the streaming, I was definitely focused on myself. There was no team at that point in time. And that was the thing that I wanted. I wanted to do it with a team. And Anastasia will tell that story forever about how that's all I constantly talked about was, man, yeah, this is fun, but like, well, at 60, what is this going to be if I built everything by myself and I do this all for myself? What? I'm going to have, what's going to be, I'll have kids and I'll make my kids my friends.
You
But then
become
it's
the
like,
Costco guy.
Wait, what's the Costco?
No, don't do this again! Don't do it again!
Don't embarrass.
I did this.
You already
Weren't
embarrassed.
you at the last episode?
I don't remember. I was sick Between then, I probably lost
The
half of my neurons.
The Costco chicken bake guy. It's the dad and the son who do the Costco
We
video.
are wasting too
No.
much airtime.
We'll
It's
revisit that.
like reliving your fucking nightmare all over again. He literally said the same fucking thing to me when I brought up on the last episode.
You did?
I go, it's
You
like the
did.
Costco guys are talking about brain rot, social media. I go, it's like the Costco guys, and you go, who are the Costco guys?
I still don't remember. To be fair, for anyone listening, I got sick as a dog like over the past 2 weeks.
Oh, it's fine. It's fucking hilarious.
Shit,
Sorry.
we're not making fun of you. It was perfect.
I
It
didn't-
was awesome.
Oh my god.
I actually kind of remember that question.
We talked about it afterwards. I can't remember who you talked. It was me, you, and John. Yeah, it was me, you, and John on Xbox. And you're like, you ever just live a terrible nightmare? Like, actually live the nightmare where, like, you tell everybody, like, yeah, it's like the Costco chicken bake guy. And nobody knows what you're talking about. And then, like, you're going to put that out on the internet and, like, nobody knew what you were talking about.
I guess I don't want to talk about social media anymore. But anyway, you're back talking about making your kids friends and whatnot. But the dream was to build a crew.
The whole, like, idea, I sat there and was like, oh, I'll make my kid, or I'll become friends with my kids. And then you're sitting there and you go, yeah, but what relationships are you showing your kids? You don't have any examples of anything to pass on to them of this is how you interact with this type of person. This is Tim, you know, we're going after Timmy again. This is Tim, you know, Tim's had a hard life, man. And Tim, we take a lot of compassion and understanding for Tim. And we don't give Tim a hard time. And this is Lonnie. And Lonnie's got his shit together. And Lonnie's kind of a pompous ass, but he's also a great dude who would do anything for anybody. He's just got a pretty big ego. And he likes to show it. And that's not a problem. But yeah, he's a good dude. And so you have all these different puzzle pieces that ultimately help build that child into being someone who is well-versed and well-rounded. But I sat here and was like, yeah, but if I have none of that to give to anybody, then what the hell is the point of doing all this for myself? So yes, I was definitely not focusing the way that we were focusing on this. It was a completely different type of focus. But at the end of the day, I enjoy doing this now, with a team, because that was the same thing that I wanted with the job that I'm in right now. I sat down with those guys before, I'd even taken on a role with them, and even sat one of the guys down who I would ultimately probably be working under after a short period of time of being there. It was like, dude, I just want to be a part of a team. I'm not here for the personal accolades. I'm not here for the plaque on a wall. I'm not here for the medals. I want to be a part of a team. I want to do some shit, and I want to grow together. I haven't grown together with anybody. I've been literally surviving in refractory all by myself this whole time, and picking pieces of the puzzle, becoming good friends with people who take good care of you because, it's a small industry. So you treat someone really well. You can call them up at any time and say, hey, dude, I really need some help here. You think you could, take a look at this later and tell me if you come up with any ideas? Those relationships are what have given me the ability to have this career that I've had in refractory, or have grown it to where I have all this connections and different stuff like that. But if I didn't have that, I'm out here all alone. And I know some guys that are like that, where they're, even in my industry, it is their way or the highway. You are a moron. They know everything. And that's how they're going to be remembered. And that's how they're talked about throughout the industry. That's a choice to be made for each person. So you can go either way. And that's where the whole living the truth is it's so hard to finally grasp that someone's truth might be absolutely horrible in your eyes. That you could never imagine that truth for yourself, but that's that person's truth. And how do you finally get to a place where you can just have understanding and compassion for that person, wanting that to be their existence?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a great question, and I guess the hope would be that they wouldn't ask any different from you, right? They're probably not worried about you either.
No, they're not.
You know?
And that's where like the impact for me would start to come into play. Is that's where the setting up boundaries with people honestly became easier for me whenever I realized this statement that the old Jesuits say that you give me a 7-year-old and I'll show you the rest of their life. Because supposedly up until you're around 7-ish years old, your brain is still in theta, which is programmable. So you are basically taking in all of your surroundings up until roughly that age. So you're taking in programming. It's, programming, like the Matrix, like that's where these things start to intertwine to each other. It's not, oh, I'm connected to literally some computer system like in the Matrix, but that there are a lot of similarities to statements being made, and you can compare things and you can make similarities. So being that person who is programmable up until 7, like so much of my existence comes from that childhood. And so sitting here and being like, wait, I'm the sum of all the people around me? I don't like me. Oh, shit. So I'm the sum of the people around me. But like some of these people are my family members. These are people who I love. These are people who I've felt fears. I've felt pains. I've gone through suffering with. I've had triumphs. I've had success. I've had joy. And you're like, start to try to weigh out this system of what do I want to be my truth and what do I want to be affected around me? And that is a dirty, dirty rabbit hole to start going down. But it made starting to put those boundaries between you and somebody else easier whenever you sit there and go, okay, but this person actually, like their actions, because I allow them into my inner circle, ultimately affect me too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think boundaries are probably one of the single most important things that I need to implement with myself. And again, not so much with the people that I hold near and dear, the people that have been part of my life for a decade or more, but like it's always seemed that with negative relationships, I've learned like, um, I've learned lessons, but they never come until like the clarity after like relationship. Like I'm thinking like romantically. Like you have a relationship, you kind of just like store everything away and are blind to all the issues until you get out and then you realize, okay, those are all the things that I never want to do again. And then with like a positive relationship, it's more of like, I guess the negative I should say too, like it's just a build up, a lot of excuses, a lot of like, cool, I'll let this slide, whatever, until it builds up into you're done. Like that relationship's broken. With a positive relationship, though, I feel like there's a lot more like the short term issues, like getting called out, more accountability for your shit. But in the long term, that's going to give you more growth and stability. And I think that's where like I'm more focused on is like, okay, I want to have the smaller circle. I want more short term issues for long term growth with the people I care about, as opposed to surrounding myself with people that I like see the issues with, but excuse them, and then eventually blows up in my fucking face.
Yeah.
And that's tough because that's where the boundaries come in. You're like, cool, like I can see where this is going. I've been here before. Now it's time for me to put up a wall. And not because, I don't see the benefit in you being my life in some ways. There's some roles that some people play in your life, but it's probably beneficial to both of you to put up some type of wall or barrier as far as like the accessibility you have to knowledge about who you are, just time you spend with that person in general.
Mhm. There's two types of people, according to this one writer. I forget who it is, but there's the nails and the screws. It's pretty self-explanatory. Nails are pretty direct. The screws, they kind of beat around the bush. But on the plus side, screws hold on a whole lot better. They may be, hiding things, but they also kind of have those aspects about themselves. I think I apply to the screw part because I don't like to tell people directly. Like, I love that you were talking about someone, like, just not you specifically, but someone at work being an asshole. I'm not going to be the guy to tell you, hey, you're being an asshole. I'll be the person, I'll say it nicely the first time, then I'll say it stern, and then I'll be like, hey, you're messing up. Like, you need to get your shit together. And like, I tend to, I've dealt with it recently, and you guys have heard the background of it, but it tends to be that type of thing where people respond differently to other people in different ways. And we kind of build ourselves around these relationships. And one of the things I have in the notes, I'll make sure it's touched upon, is we have relationships with objects and people, and that's how we construct our entire world. There's no world without relationships. It's how we remember things. It's how we relate to other people, no pun intended, and how we establish good or bad. There's no figure without the foreground. You need to have that contrast. And that contrast helps us understand the world and who we become. Without that contrast, there's just nothing. That's all I have to say about that. No, I'm kidding.
Holy cow.
But there was also something it started to slip my mind what I wanted to mention earlier. I'll have to revisit because I've lost what I was going to mention earlier.
I would-
I was gonna say we're gonna wrap on.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. I would say the relationships as you age was something that I wanted to touch base on real quick, because I feel like relationships as you age can go one of two different ways. They're either they get way more challenging, or they become way more what Derry was referencing in the regards to, these people know me so well now that when I'm off, they can tell that there is no more hiding those aspects of me that I wanted to keep more private. These people can already see right through that bullshit. But I would say as you get older, relationships do become a little bit more challenging in the fact of trying to hold on to some types of relationships for what they were. I would say that relationships have to, at some point in time, take some type of transition into a different category. We're probably not going to be homeboys that crush a 30-pack together till the end of time. Like, it's just, there's going to come a time and a place when that probably...
Tuesday night, you both are there.
Well, but that was just an example. Like, fuck you guys.
I'm feeling like an alcoholic. I'm off Wednesday.
I'm off Wednesday. So I would say relationships can get more challenging with, people having kids, you're not having kids. And then they can become even more stressful in the fact of, like, I know that I've watched some people want to catch up to other people so that they don't lose them as a friend. Like, I've watched some people just like ramp up to try to like get through the accolades of life, to be like, so that, oh, my friend doesn't start hanging out with all these other people who have kids. I want to continue to I want to be connected to that person still. So like, I got to hurry up and I got to get some kids out and whatnot, because let's face it, like, you got kids, like, you're probably looking for more people who have kids to let your kids interact with more people. So your time, which has now become even smaller because you have kids and you have more responsibilities, is now being pushed over to a category of trying to better the child versus better you, which is understood. So watching your friends start to like maybe disconnect themselves from you is challenging, and it's hard. But it's a way of life. So unless you meet them at their, it's basically the Snoop Dogg comment of like, you create a gap between you and your homies. And if your homies don't close the gap, sometimes you got to say goodbye to some homies. And so it's tough, it's challenging, but it's not something to, I guess I should say, for the younger generation, don't put so much weight on it, because in death comes life, and from a lot of relationships dying, if you're someone who is compassionate, understanding, and just an all-around good person who's living closer and closer to your truth, you're going to find those relationships elsewhere. And they might even be way stronger, way more impactful, and way more beneficial than you ever imagined. That's all I wanted to write out on.
Before we fully wrap up, after you talked it, I want to mention some. There's 2 points. The one, I read one of you put something in about body language, and as I've been getting older, I use it more tactful than ever. Good example is somebody was trying to get into my personal space, and they like were pretty much like, imagine if you had your arm on top of something, and then they put theirs right on top, like pretty much right within an inch of yours, and they're like, I want to see if he'll move. And I'm like, I know what you're doing. I'm not moving. And I just stood there, waited. Inside, I'm like, you're in my personal space and I don't like it. But outside, I'm cool as a cucumber. I'm like, you move. But so I think body language in general is like, as you get older with relationships, can be quite a tactful thing. But the other thing I wanted to really mention was Joharis window. I didn't really get to, that's the thing I was forgetting to mention. I'm going to butcher it, but the way I remember it is there is the hidden aspects. Those are the parts of you you hide from others, but you know about. There's your blind spots. Those parts are parts that other people see. Like the guy you're explaining, he has a big ego and he doesn't realize it, but everyone else does. And those people are kind of embarrassing. You could probably list at least 10 people that you've known across a lifetime who they have blind spots and they can't see it, but you do. There's also the open areas. Those are the parts where they're open to you and open to others, so everyone knows about it. And then the last category is unknown. These are the parts you don't know about yourself and others don't know about yourself. Great example is a Kevin Kline movie where he's in the closet and there's only one person who's noticed that he's actually gay. And he doesn't notice it, but then more and more people are starting to notice it, and he keeps trying to hide it. And then it starts to become, for him, a blind spot where people are like, no, really, you are. Like, and he's like, no, I'm not. And then by the end of the movie, so this guy who's also gay kisses him, and he's like, whoa. Like, he's taken back. He goes, I am gay. Like, it's crazy. But I think it's amazing that those 4 categories are just part of the human experience. Every single person has at least some elements of them in each of those categories. But I wanted to plug that in before we close out.
Hell yeah.
Because I think it's really important just in relationships, you're experiencing that all the time. One of the 4 elements.
Yeah, man. No, I don't have too much else to add there. I think just what I mentioned before, more time with less people is going to be where I'm moving forward with. And I want to prioritize the people that have always showed up for me. Like, not that I have it, but making sure that that never feels like it's a burden or a job or anything. Like, I want to focus more on like even like parents, for instance. Like, my parents, regardless of any ups, downs, left, rights. Like, I feel like as I get older, like I think you mentioned this in the notes, is like your parents. In that line of like, they're your parents, or are they your friends, or what are they? Like, I feel like that ship has sailed, as much as like, not that my parents can't offer me anything from a parental place. I still go to both my parents for advice and want them to be parents. But I feel like I'm finally reaching this point to like, now that I've reached the age that they were when they had me, I can like kind of break down that barrier of like, kind of want to be like friends with my parents. Not like friends, but like I want to like take my mom out to like a concert, or like have drinks with her and have fun, like be my mom's friend. Or like my dad like texts me. He doesn't text me about like You know, well, when I got in the car accident, believe me, that dude was like, okay, well, you know, did you call your insurance? You know, there's an app, right? There's an app. You know, you go on the app, you type it in, like, did you follow it? And like, Dad, 32 fucking years old, dude, almost. Like, I did the app, took the pictures, like, I did it on the side of Route 28. Like, yeah, we're good. But like, there's not as much of like hey, I gotta make sure he's doing the right thing, because when I was his age, I wouldn't have done the right things. And it's more of like, hey, did you see how bad the hockey team sucks this year or something? Like, yeah, like, and they don't. They'll be fine. But anyway, point is like, I want to open up those doors. Like, cool, like less people I'm inviting. I'm not spreading myself too thin, but I am focusing on the relationships that matter most.
Yeah, my thing right now is I took some time to myself for a couple years because I really didn't know who the hell I was. And I really was trying to find myself. And I'm starting to really have a good grasp and understanding of that. And one thing that I've realized is that I made a statement in here about I'm trying to build back relationships, but once I get myself to a place with my business or with how I make my finances to survive in this world, I'm probably not going to have that much time anyways, because I have all these hobbies that I want to do. And I said, you know what, dude? No, ramping that back. I want to have the relationships with the hobbies, and all that other stuff can become an added bonus. I've already set in stone that there's a parameter of money that I want to make each year to live, to feel comfortable, and to be able to start nesting some away for a rainy day. And it is not a big number. It is a very reasonable number. And it's $333 a day. You do the math. That's what I want to make a year. So it's like $121,000 a year. Nothing crazy. Anything over that, I don't really need. I don't. There's a couple things I want to buy to be able to do some things in my life. Outside of that, I don't really need anything crazy. So right now, my big thing is taking the time and not sitting here in front of this computer for way too many hours each week and working on editing, when all these people are literally pumping out shit that's just AI, and I'm spending all this time, and it's just the return on interest is not there. But the return on interest when I go play pickleball with my friends, holy shit, do I feel great the next day of going and doing that and just working out and just the competition and the fun and the atmosphere, all that stuff. And personally, I don't like going to play pickleball at places where there's all these people who I don't know. I like to go just get a court with some friends and play by ourselves. But I'm starting to really more so open myself up to being in a place where there's just all these random people, because my biggest thing was I was just probably stoned half the time whenever I went to these places. So like, I didn't really want to talk to people, and I didn't want to put that out there. Like, I've always been someone who has tried to hide that, or has been the person who is like, oh, I smoked weed, so now I'm going to work 10 times harder than I would if I was sober. And that's normally how I always was. So like, when I go to those atmospheres, like, I don't want people, like, I don't want to look like I'm this or that, or I don't know who I might meet. And so like, now what I want to do for myself is I want to show up to those places with the person who I want to portray to those people. And so like, I've gone to pickleball now, not smoking weed before pickleball, and have had so much more fun than whenever I got roped in with two brothers and their dad, and I was stuck with the good brother, and we got our asses spanked like 11-3, because I just was like, these guys are whipping this ball, and I'm like, holy shit, I can't keep up right now. So you're like, maybe if I wasn't so zen, I might be able to, but my reaction time is like, I just want to flow right now, and this is not flowing. This is full out. So yes, I definitely am now jumping into that new realm of myself of, there are things that I've come across in my life that I like to do that give me a lot of peace and a lot of relaxation from time to time, because my mind, and I've talked about it 100 times now, beat it to on this one, is like a 6-lane highway on one side, and it is just cars moving a million miles an hour. And it's just idea. to the point where Haas is like, yesterday you wanted to be this, 3 hours ago you wanted to be that, 30 seconds ago you wanted to be this. Can you make up your damn mind already, son? And so, yes, I am challenging beyond all means, but that is where the ever-loving, tree-hugging hippie and David Goggins nutcase is going to ultimately make his appearance here in the next coming years. And it's so funny because, like, I kind of like, no, I don't want to say I ripped on Goggins in the last episode, but I kind of was like, I don't understand why this dude is this crazy, because when I go this crazy, my body breaks and then I can't move for literally 4 days. And so I'm like, this is so stupid. Why would you ever do this? And then you're like, all right, well, I just came back from that. All right, we're good to go. But no, going after the relationships, going after the deeper communication, the deeper connections, and putting myself out there to go do those types of things, like little pickleball tournaments or ultimate frisbee or not ultimate frisbee, disc golf tournaments. And like, yeah, we're getting into some disc golf tournaments, and I need to do it for myself. I'm putting it out there on the line. I got to start doing these gravel races for myself, man. Like, I know that there is something about biking that I need to do for myself. Like this trip this past week, and I snapped a bolt on my pannier rack on the back, and my bike had 85 pounds worth of stuff on it. And I stacked it all onto this rack that absolutely just like crumbled under the fucking pressure after doing 100 some plus miles. And I had to finish the last 9 miles holding the one handlebar and trying to hold the pannier rack like behind me, like from rubbing off the tire. And we're coming downhill from into Cumberland. So it's all downhill. You got to understand, we're at an, yeah. And we're coming down the trail. It's all downhill. We're talking a 1 to 2% grade downhill. So you can easily cook. But I'm cooking 20 miles an hour, and Eric's catching up to me and going, dude, what the hell, man? You're literally holding this freaking rack behind you and still cooking ass, man. Holy shit. And that was like, I was in my flow state. Like, I kept switching like my hand that was holding the rack. But like at the end of that, like I joked and said like, oh yeah, my shoulders, they're really hurting. They weren't hurting at all. Like, being on my bike is flow state. As much as like sometimes my seat makes me uncomfortable, like, or this or that, like I just need to find that comfortability. And then that is my thing. But anywho, Yin's got anything else to add? Yeah. They did it to us again, dude. They did it to us again. That was last episode too, or the episode before that. Yeah, it was one of them. That's hilarious. Yeah. As always, don't trust us, trust yourself. And seriously though, these guys both said it throughout the episode, but we appreciate any of you guys who have been riding along with us. Any of you guys, gals, thanks for listening. And seriously, like, it's much appreciated. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks again for tuning into episode 32, Relationships. Don't hesitate to catch our next release, episode 34, Fear. You don't get goosebumps? The group gets together to discuss that catchy word that surrounds all the emotions for nothing good, right? Well, you choose. Is fear a motivator, or does fear keep you stuck where you always were? Who knows? Well, why don't you listen to the trauma of these three goobers and join us on the next release. We appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, the group says, don't trust us, trust yourself.